Hello, everyone. I would like to warm welcome all of you to the joint webinar of Well and Access4you. I'm Tamás Méri, co-founder at CBDO of Access4you. It's an honor for me that I will be the host of this event today. This webinar was organized on the occasion that Access4you was integrated as an alternative adherence pass, an AAP, into the prestigious International Well-Building Institutes, the well-building standard. The Access4you Bronze Certification is now recognized as an equivalency for feature C13 about accessibility and universal design, giving well clients a new international pathway for compliance. We prepare for you here an interesting, exciting panel discussion with industry leaders on how to make our built environment more inclusive. This perspective is key to understanding that how inclusive real estate is currently being transformed from a vision into a measurable global standard. And now, last but not least, let me greet my great colleagues, the real estate experts panelists, Anne-Marie Aguilar and Crystal Jones from International Wellbeing Institute, Amit Anafi, Prisma, Italy, and Gábor Radványi, Futureal, Hungary. We highly appreciate your acceptance of our invitation to the webinar. Thank you very much. Let's make first a round of brief introduction, okay? Please introduce yourself, your company, your position, and highlight your relation to Access4you or the topic of this webinar. Ladies first.
Yes, it's really lovely to be here, Tamás. Thank you so much. My name's Anne-Marie Aguilar. I lead the well-building movement in Europe, Middle East, and North Africa. I've been in this position since 2016, and we're really excited to have this incredible partnership with Access4you that allows the recognition of Access4you as one of our alternative adherence pathways, which we'll talk more about. But the idea behind that partnership is that we really accelerate the equity opportunities with our standard across the globe. Thank you. I'll hand over to Crystal.
Thank you for inviting me to be here. Really excited to be able to speak about the alternative adherence pathway. My name is Crystal Jones. I'm a senior analyst in global business development. I work alongside Anne-Marie in the EMEA region and have a focus on diversity, equity, and inclusion across EMEA.
Hi to everybody. Thank you very much for inviting me. It's a great pleasure. My name is Amit. As you said, I'm an architect. I'm the head of ESG and sustainability department at Prisma. Prisma is an international architecture and planning firm with Italian origins. I'm based in Milan, and we design spaces and we always have the human experience in mind. So I have to say that we are proudly the first partners of Access4you in Italy, and our headquarters in Milan, I believe, is the first official certified Access4you. So it's a great pleasure to be part of this movement. I'm a well AP, and I've been working on well projects for the last 10 years or so. Thank you.
Thanks for inviting me. I'm Gábor Radványi, representing Futureal, which is one of the leading real estate developer in Central Eastern Europe. We have office, residential, logistics, and retail developments all over Europe, including Great Britain, Romania, Spain. So not only in Hungary, where we're based in Budapest. And I'm not only the chief architect, but the chief sustainability officer of the company. And it might be interesting to say that Futureal and myself were founders of the Hungarian Green Building Council. So as far as I understand my role, I'm the client here around this table.
That's correct, true. Thank you, all of you, for the introduction. And actually, here I also got a few minutes in the agenda to introduce Access4you for those attendees who didn't hear of us until now. Access4you is a social impact company established in Hungary in 2019. Our mission originally is to identify, collect, certify, and publish all technical parameters of any kind of buildings which are relevant for people with disabilities, for 8 stakeholder groups, including neurodiverse persons, elderly people, but also parents with baby strollers. But this data-driven system, this special building certificate with a sole and strong focus on accessibility, became a value for building owners, developers, and employers as well. Our audit report helps them to understand the actual level of inclusion of their buildings and gives suggestions how to improve it. properties can achieve different levels, certified bronze, silver, and gold certification in Access4you based on the result of the audit. It has now assessed 1,000 plus buildings in 23 countries, but this is just the beginning, actually, since our accredited partner network is growing really very fast, and not only in Europe, but in many other continents as well. So this is how we are today, and let's start to speak about WELL first. Anna-Marie, I will raise the first questions to you that the WELL building standards runs today for a few years under version 2. First of all, I kindly ask you to tell us more about the version 2 and detail its main structural changes compared to version 1. What were the reasons behind the system level changes?
It's a great question, and you can imagine that we launched version 1 in 2014, the first time that we really had a standard that was focused on human health. WELL version 1 was based on 7 categories: air, water, nourishment, light, fitness, comfort, and mind. And it was also our first time to require buildings to actually do performance verification. And actually, it was the only standard that demanded on-site performance when the building was actually complete. And those parameters included things like air quality testing, water quality testing, sound, and lighting. And the industry was really not prepared for that level of intense verification. So we've had to make changes to make sure that we don't scare people away. So version 2 was an opportunity to reprogram some of the earlier assumptions that we had about what we must require, and to make it not easier, but to make it achievable so that we could move the market. WELL version 2 then really took on some important changes. We expanded the categories from 7 to 10. We added a category specifically called materials, which allowed us to really demand changes in the supply chain relating to material toxicity, which really has a massive impact on air quality. And we also made sure that sound was a standalone topic to make sure it captures things like the mental impact or the mental health awareness of different levels of sound inside a building. I think the one thing that we continue to strive is the area of community in mind. I do think that that's something that makes our standard very different. We actually address overall health to include mental health, physical health, and community health. So I think we've really managed in version 2 to make the standard much more accessible and not lose out on those really important performance verification requirements.
I understand. Well, it's really very holistic. It's all around the people. And what can we say? What are the most important values from the beginning in the WELL building standards, which already was incorporated in version 1 and still there in version 2? And probably which are more ahead in the version 2, so which were improved?
Yeah, I would definitely say mind and community continue to stand out as features, and we'll hear more from Crystal in terms of the equity side, but we're really understanding that you spend 90% of your time inside buildings. And one of the unique factors that WELL brings to the table is this really unique opportunity to bring together 3 often siloed parts of a business, which are normally HR, facilities management, and design. So I think the fact that our program has that holistic opportunity to bring together the various parts of the business means that we tend to impact more on the community and mind level. We all know that mental health is a fundamental component of human health. It addresses people across all stages of their life. And it's not just an element that we can fix in one instance. It's socioeconomic, it's biological, it has an impact with our environmental factors, work conditions, lifestyle, and even our health behaviors, which we really try and nudge by the WELL building standard.
Is it correct, the figure what I have, that mind and community already represents something like 30% in the whole building standard, more or less?
Yeah, I mean, it's always up to the actual customer how they want to focus, but I think the unique ability of this standard to address things like mind and community sets it apart from sustainability rating systems for sure.
As you heard, our business is accessibility. How was accessibility featured in version 1? And how does version 2 approach this topic today?
Yeah, I mean, what we're seeing is that C13 is the community feature that talks about accessibility and universal design. I think we've expanded from version 1 to make sure that it's much more globally adoptable, but we also make sure that it's increasing the best practice for universal design. And that really means accommodating a diverse range of disabilities and giving people a selection of strategies that they can improve on. So some of these categories include physical access, of making sure that entry, exit, and key sort of strategic points enable inclusive entrance to a building. That is absolutely critical, similar to like step-free access, making sure that everyone has access to the building. But also, you spoke briefly about neurodiversity. So looking at sensory requirements of people who may have neurodiverse issues. So things that include color, texture, images, other multisensory information, helping folks with wayfinding, really helping them navigating through a building. And again, this idea that we will weave in HR protocol. So here's your opportunity now to inform the policies and the programs that support folks that need this additional help. We also look at technology. So what type of audio and visual equipment can we bring into the building? And then last, but definitely not least, is really looking at the strategies that make sure that the building is safe.
It's quite a long list. It's really very complex.
It is.
Is it very difficult for the clients to achieve feature C13? It's hard. It's a hard expectation, and it's a compulsory item in the well building standard, or this is just for extra credit. So how it works?
No, so C13, the feature C13 is an optimization, which means that projects can choose to apply it if they want to in order to achieve more points. Whether it's a hard feature to achieve really depends on the project itself. And I'm sure Amit could probably weigh in a bit more here as well, having worked on various projects. But there's a lot of factors considering, like if it's a heritage building, for example, is accessibility built into that kind of foundation from the get-go, and what is the internal culture, and is the organization considerate of the different populations that they have within that building? It's very much how long is a piece of string kind of question. In terms of, for me personally, as someone that is an advocate for diversity, equity and inclusion, I think that whether something is hard is not really the barriers to whether we should be doing it or making changes or evolving. Yeah, the sense of whether it's difficult to achieve is really neither here nor there. I think all organizations need to be making strides to ensure accessibility and looking at accessibility beyond a viewpoint of just ramps and automatic doors and things like that, and considerate of needs like neurodiverse populations as well.
Thank you. Chris, I knew that, Amit, the next term will be you. Actually, let's check now the professional part, I mean the everyday work that you as a WELL AP, what challenges do you face when assessing whether a building meets the requirements of feature C13? Is there enough data? And I also wonder to know that, to understand that how the building owners in general typically approach or relate to this issue. So tell me about your challenges.
Okay, so that's a really interesting and important question. I think that Crystal touched on some important issues, and it is a difficult and a challenging, let's say, optimization in the WELL AP. But I will start at the beginning, because I think that as part of the design process, the most important thing is to be able to interact with the client and understand exactly what are his needs and priorities. And I have to say that C13 presents challenges on different levels. Okay, so of course, in some buildings, the part of the physical accessibility is quite an easy part, because we already have thorough regulations in Italy. But when you start talking about neurodivergency, then things become a little bit blurry. And I have to say that I would say two things about the design process and the interaction with the client. First of all, wayfinding and the part of the sensorial and the experience inside the building is very important for the client, because it is very important for the final user, no, for the end users.
Yes.
So this is almost 100% part of our journey when we speak about design. When we speak about technology today, technology is a great ally. No, we have to be a bit, we have to treat technology as something that can help us achieve these goals. And actually, technology gives us a flexibility that maybe, a physical tenant sometimes is much more difficult to adapt to the building or to the client's needs. The last thing I would like to say is that, I think that we believe at Prisma that at the end, if we address the C13, so yes, I know it's an optimization. It's not obligatory, but we believe it is very important, and it's almost not a nice to have, but a must. And at the end, we realize that when we create a place that is accessible for all the, different neurodivergency or physical problems, it makes the place better for everybody. So at the end, I think it's a win-win situation. So and it's a very important feature.
I completely agree. Thank you very much. And now let's hear the view of the client. Gábor, you as building owner and developer in the same time, having a diverse portfolio in different real estate segments, what is your view about accessibility, the necessity of accessibility? What do you think about that?
Well, before I answer you, let me react to Anne-Marie. Well, IWBI couldn't scare us away. So we were pioneers in WELL certification in Hungary, and we have several WELL certified WELL Platinum buildings today. But going back to the necessity of accessibility, I think it's so obvious. We as developers, we as designers have huge responsibility. If we design something, it's somehow logged into that building for 50 or 100 years. So that's a huge responsibility. And honestly, I do believe that inclusive design should be mandatory, and there shouldn't be questioning any kind of design issues related to make the buildings more accessible. But if I put it on the capitalist view, what is the value of a building? And we usually say for an office building, for example, the value of the building is the cash flow which is generated by the tenant's rent. So that's our value. And what is the value of the tenants? And they usually say that their biggest value is the community of their employees. So if we want to create value, we have to focus on these end users. And when I say end users, then I do believe that we have to focus on all of them. And I think that's important. And that's the differentiation between best practice. That's the differentiation between developer and how you treat this issue. So that's what I feel. And I do believe that we have an educational role regarding this.
Thank you, Gábor. Anne-Marie, Futureal is very exceptional, so what is your personal experience based on many 10,000 buildings with well-certified buildings? How the building owners are generally thinking about accessibility? Are they as empathetic and responsible as Futureal, or they have different view as an average?
We can safely say that there are always innovators, and Gábor on Futureal, again, as he mentioned, was one of the first at the table in 2016-15 to really start talking about WELL, both in Hungary and globally. We can, we'd love to partner with the innovators because it takes that really intellectually ambitious group to move or to create a movement. So I think working with Futureal has given us the opportunity to deliver best in class. So I think we are seeing that those innovators have led the way. What we are also being challenged with is sort of the misconception that because we're in a post-pandemic environment, that health kind of can take a back seat now. And I think that's the issue that we as a company are dealing with. The challenge is that, air quality and accessibility are important for every day. It's not that it's something that we only worry about when health is being challenged or when we have a climate risk event like forest fires. So I think what's an interesting time for us now is to not forget that health has to be the optimum outcome, and equity is part and parcel to that commitment. So the opportunity to continue working with the innovators, the ones that are really leading the movement, allows us, and sitting with yourself, Tamás, is to recognize people who are changing the world. I think the opportunities that we have to create these movements are by bringing together a community of folks who really want best-in-class buildings. And I think with Prisma, to talk about how this should be not an option, but an absolute must-have is a critical conversation I'm sure will be taking forward, because we.
All right. Actually, I don't know whether the others they realize that, but now we have some sound problem. So instead of asking the next question, actually I think that your answer was incorporated there. That I wanted to understand that how the buildings typically, whether they meet these expectations of accessibility or not. But as I understand, I may say a bravo to Gábor, and actually Futureal's approach is really, let's say, unique or among the best ones, the innovator ones. So the average, actually there is still a gap between the requirements or the standard expectations and between the reality of the everyday life of the building owners. That's
I definitely think there will always be that best in class team that delivers and goes beyond what the building regs require. But I think we are in a world now where equity and access is becoming a real priority. And I think it's really an important place to be. And we're really happy to be using the same voice that we have to share standards like yours.
We can both agree. I mean, we all agree that accessibility is very important. I know that it was from the beginning very important for you, and in the version 1, it was a kind of prerequisite towards the buildings that they have to deliver or they have to match the requirements or either the ISO or the ADA, the American standards, just to start the whole procedure with the WELL standard. My question is actually, I wanted to understand that the reason that many buildings failed, I mean, they fall off on the whole procedure at the beginning, was because these buildings are really not good enough, or probably these standards are not good enough. They are too, how to say, artificial, too serious, not based on real usability. Or so I want to understand that probably to link to, I mean, these standards were not efficient to really measure that the building is accessible or not. You felt something like that? So this was the reason behind changing from version 1 as a prerequisite to put it in the feature C13, not to require these kind of standards?
I think you're absolutely right. What was probably the resulting reaction is that the buildings either weren't ready or clients didn't have the level of commitment. And again, we're talking about close to 10 years ago. And I think that conversation, as well as the evolution of the standards, I would imagine with the conversations that are going on globally, have had to rise to the occasion, especially knowing that accessibility has expanded to include neurodiversity. So I think, and Crystal, you might have had more experience in the development of the equity rating, but we definitely have seen growth and awareness at a much higher level than what we've seen in 2014. So I would imagine, I don't have the exact reasons why the C13 was moved from a precondition to an optimization in the V2 transition, but I would imagine they were trying to address gaps in the market that weren't allowing that feature to be delivered.
Thank you. I'm very much optimistic that actually with our joint efforts, and actually instead of asking less with the feature C13, not a prerequisite, but an optimization, but with the support of Access4you, with a separate standard, with its more use-based requirements, probably it will be a step ahead instead of stepping back. And as you told, I will turn to Crystal now. But first, for all the audience, for you today here, with all of you, we are celebrating now that Access4you has officially become an APP. We are very proud on it. It's really an honor for us. And we would like to thank you, Crystal, your development team, who worked in depth with the Access4you certification for the dedicated work and professional support. Thank you very much. It was really a long journey. We are very, very happy that finally we managed. Can you tell us something about the whole procedure, the insights, how it works? How can a solution become an AAP? Something about that.
Yeah, of course, I'd be happy to. I had a thought to add on to Anne-Marie, what she was talking about in terms of moving from compulsory to a precondition as well. And I think it's really important to highlight, especially with innovators like Gábor on the line as well. I think for a very long time, accessibility and considering accessibility has been considered a separate target community that we can support, and our understanding of the fact that almost all of us will at some point in our lives require accommodations for a building is starting to become a present understanding across organizations. Like myself as a pregnant woman, the way I have to move around a building now is very different to it was 8 years ago. But 8 months ago, not 8 years ago. In the UK alone, 350,000 people are admitted to hospital for head injuries, which can cause the onset of neurodivergences. Anyone could break their leg tomorrow, and we're all aging. So this understanding that actually we're all going to require accessible accommodations in a building, I think is slowly becoming the forefront of everyone's minds, but it's typically addressed by pioneers and leaders to understand that you have to be proactive rather than reactive when it comes to the communities in your buildings and in your organizations. And I just wanted to add that. But yes, very happy to talk about what an alternative adherence pathway is. So it's essentially a route that allows projects to diverge away from exact feature requirements that are established in the World Building Standard. But that divergence ensures that it still meets the feature intent and supports a similar outcome. So AAPs, or alternative adherence pathways, are a really important part of being creative and flexible at the International World Building Institute and in the World Building Standard. Well, is certainly created with universal applicability in mind, but then there's these instances when new paths come across our desk and we're able to review them and see that actually they achieve the same results as the feature, but do so in a diverged way. So it's a great learning opportunity for us as well. So we continue to improve the value of well, and we can identify new routes of compliance. So in terms of what the actual process looks like, it is quite relatively simple. It's a AAP proposal that you submit via a form, and then it's reviewed by our wonderful standard development team, and they're the team that make the addenda and ensure that the World Building Standard is supportive of the needs at the time and ensuring that we're supporting our clients. So when the standard development team are considering an AAP, they look at two questions. So is the content from well largely covered by the program in question? And does it have a robust third-party verification system? If you can answer both of those questions, then typically we will be able to accept the new route as an alternative adherence pathway. So what this means is that a project pursuing well, in this instance, a project that achieves the Access4you Bronze Certificate, will be able to use that as evidence that they have achieved C13, so the community concept, part 1, and they can submit that certificate as evidence of achieving that, because there's significant overlap, and we've been able to identify that it's a diverged path, but you meet those feature requirements that are part of well.
Thank you, Krista. We have to mention that since equity rating is, may I say that it's your baby, actually, as far as I know, within IWBI, it's you're nursing that product. So actually, Access4you became also part of as an optional credit in equity rating. Tell something about that, please.
Cannot take full ownership of the well equity rating at the International World Building Institute. I will not flatter. It is the baby that was created by hundreds of experts and advisors globally. It's led by our Chief Equity Officer, Kimberly. I am merely a frontline officer in EMEA in terms of putting the well equity rating out there as an option. But it is a really important program and option at IWBI, we wanted to find a way for organizations that really cared about diversity, equity, and inclusion, which we know at the moment is a bit of a charged subject, but across Europe specifically, there's still this massive intent on ensuring diversity, equity, and inclusion across organizations. We wanted to create a opportunity for them to focus specifically on creating equitable environments. So it's recently undergone an evolution, and there were 6 target populations, which we've slightly changed, but the intent of the World Equity Rating remains largely the same. So all of the features come from the Well Building Standard, plus a few beta features in there as well. And they support target communities that are within one of 6 groups. So these are people who have been historically, racially, or ethnically minoritized, LGBTQIA plus individuals, people who are neurodivergent, or people who are physically disabled, primary caregivers, and women and girls. So in those target populations alone, you can see that there's already that overlap between the Well Equity Rating and Access4you in terms of the communities and the groups that we're targeting. So primary caregivers, because Access4you addresses things like stroller needs, people who are neurodivergent, and then also, of course, people who are physically disabled as well.
See, thank you, Krista. Amit, you are fighting in front. Actually, you are the hero as a Well AP and also as an accredited Access4you partner. Now you see that what an AAP means, or let me ask in a different way, that until now you had to deliver. If the client decided to deliver the feature C13, it was more difficult or it was easier until now, or with Access4you it is. Well, what is let's say, I would like to ask if there is any benefit for you that Access4you became as an AAP to performing the feature C13. What is your experience?
It's a pleasure to be in the front line because we really believe that this is a very important part of what we're doing, because, we call it design human life at Prisma, because we design places for people. Right. So buildings are for people to stay fat, to be healthy, and to be happy. And if I have to, just to answer your question, well, certification 10 years ago was, for me personally, as an architect and sustainability professional, was really a great news. Because, we always talked about the importance of air quality and light and other aspects. And when Well came out, it gave us the possibility, the robustness, the tangible evidence that these actually make good, when it comes to buildings. And I think that Access4you did the same thing. So that's where they work really good together. Because I'll just give you an example. We actually finished Well Health and Safety Rating certification 2 years ago. And even though it was after the pandemic, but we have a client that was really, it's a university, it's a business university in Milan, and they opened in Rome for the first time. They're really important. They're called Bocconi. I probably you heard about them. And they were really interested in the health and safety plan and rating. So we decided together with the client, because they had in mind accessibility and diversity, equity, and inclusion, to go for the C13 as an innovation. And as we all know, who knows the Well Health and Safety Rating, you can choose which one you want to put emphasis on, right? And I have to say that it was 2 years ago. We only partnered for about a year with Access4you. And I think that if we had the possibility to use Access4you as a platform, as a data-based and data-driven certification, it would have been easier. It would have brought an added value to the process.
And it's not it does make it more difficult to use our special software to collect the data and to analyze it well. Of course, I would like to hear the opposite, but what is your view about it?
I'll try to answer this question in a different way. We advocate, sure, Gábor will also have a lot of experience in that. We advocate for sustainability and we advocate for ESG. And when you want to make an impact, we know that quality is important, and quality sometimes is very difficult to measure. But when you talk about evidence and quantity, then that's where you need a robust certification scheme that can help you, bring that added value to the client. So at the end, I think that, I always look at certification not just as a nice thing to put, in the reception, but it's a way to have a excellency in your path, right? And to give some evidence of the effort that the client made towards these issues. And I actually think that, for our experience, and Julia, my colleague with Access4you IT can tell, because we have the experience with our offices. I think it was actually, at the beginning, it was a little bit, difficult to get to know, as well as it was with at the beginning. But once you use it, once you get some experience, it's a great tool. So yes, it was helpful.
Thank you. And actually, I had a feeling that in your you spoke about Futureal and as an excellence. Gábor, you are really an exception in this respect. Tell me that what is the typical level or certification level what Futureal is building achieved in the Access4you certification?
To be honest, it's so embarrassing that you put me, all of you, on a pedestal.
We would like to copy paste you on all over the world.
No. We don't do any special thing. We are just normal people sitting in a normal company. And maybe we are a bit more sensitive than other decision makers, but it's really nothing special. And what I feel and what I hear out is that now we have a lot of VAL and Access4you APs in the audience, and I think it's their responsibility and task to convince all the decision makers to just be normal, like we are. So I think that's my message to all of you. That should be the normal. And to answering your question, we did BREEAM certifications, we did WELL certifications, and every time we started it, we made a gap analysis to calculate how much would it cost for us to reach a higher level. But we never did it with Access4you. I think, and I honestly think, that it's a shame to shoot lower than gold. So how would you stand in front of your kids, your grandkids, if you think that bronze is enough? And that's why we're always trying to maximize the points. And that was the goal every time when we sit down with Access4you and when we were in the design phase or in the construction phase. So I think that's the important thing.
Among your buildings, the average age is, let's say, 10-15 years. On that basis, we can assume that the bronze level, what is the equivalency for C13 is deliverable, it's feasible, it's not a special deal. Tell me about rather something that to upgrade it from let's say an easy bronze level to the gold. Was it too much effort, a lot of money, or how much did it cost to be proud in front of your family? And so
that's what I'm thinking. It's not about being proud. That's the only way I can go home and look into the eyes of my family. So cost is an interesting issue in this case because we have the cost of the certification and the cost of the upgrading of the technical details, but we are talking about a business where all these costs are so marginal compared to the value of the building, compared to any kind of contractual figures. So here we are talking about, let's say, much more soft costs when you have to hire good experts, good APs to sit down, good designers who have experience. And that's what you have to invest. And the cost of it, again, it's so minor that we don't even calculate it as an item in our budget. It's so obvious.
You consider yourself as a normal, and that's why I would consider you as shy if I ask you that what about communication of the result? How do you celebrate? Because for the audience, Access4you supports very much the communication of the reach levels. And we are giving a lot of support to the clients, to the partners to celebrate it. What is your approach to that?
Yeah, maybe myself is shy and but the marketing teams they love it. So yeah, I do believe that communicating, for example, on social media, real estate development is quite difficult. It's for everyday users, people, it's difficult to connect to. But these are the details behind the inclusive design. These are the subject which is easy to communicate. You go and easily go down to the details. You can educate. People can connect. They somehow be attached as they figure out that something is for them. So I do believe that both WELL and Access4you gives us a lot of good topics how we can communicate with the community, our users and the community of those areas which we develop. So it's a low-hanging fruit afterwards to go into the scores, each of them, and just easily create content out of it.
Thank you, Gábor. Thank you. I see that soon we will run out of time, so I try to shorten it a bit, but I have to ask Anna-Marie that what is your experience among the WELL building standard clients, that they also try to shoot for the top, or there is how to say a learning curve that actually they understand that what they want to reach, they start with a lower level and then year by year or after every 3 years reassessment they are delivering better and better performance? Or what is the behavior of your average client, let's say?
It's a really interesting one, because we have found that a lot of our clients will almost stay private when they register for WELL until they are sure that they will have a high score. I think reputationally, folks are concerned that if they score at a bronze or just a silver, that it's not strong enough. And I think in the market today, where people are choosing one building over another, sometimes they will choose buildings that have a higher rating. So I think similar to what Amit said, they start with a gap analysis. They try and really understand what the cost differential is, but they're also very concerned with the general reputational risk associated with not achieving a very high certification.
Just also for the audience to understand that actually a WELL procedure takes really quite long, even years probably, and also the preparation phase to collect the data. With Access4you, it is really definitely shorter, especially when we are speaking about the building certificate, which is the, let's say, the in-use or the as-it-is verification. It's just a few months. It's really a quite quick procedure. Can you agree that this kind of certificates not only giving an actual mirror to the building owner that what is its status in terms of everything with Access4you in terms of inclusion, but this is also a good tool to educate them. So actually, if there are very definite expectations and step by step they can improve their status in that terms, we help them to be better. Can you agree with that?
Absolutely. I mean, if you can't measure it, it's impossible to really know how good you're doing or how much improvement you need to do. So for people who really resist certifications, I think it's more of a fear that when they do measure, they will see that they're missing appropriate pathways and strategies. So I think that these rating systems, especially something that can be done without a massive amount of time and effort on a design side, means that should be applicable much easier than going through the WELL standard. And knowing that it can partner with us means that that box can be achieved. I think we are really trying to help the education. And I think what you said before about the Access4you APs or the professionals that understand the standards have to get out and speak about it. I mean, that was my role at IWBI for the first 6 years, was really speaking at every platform around the world so that people understood the benefits of healthy building. And I think we're at a point now, as Crystal mentioned, this diversity conversation is having global impacts around the world. It's time for people to hear how important this subject is and the fact that it can be built in and alongside your both sustainable and healthy criteria.
Thank you, Anna-Marie. Thank you. I have the duty, I have really briefly mentioned Access4you score, and I turn to you, Gábor, because I know that very often, or a major part of your portfolio, you are also evaluating by GRESB. GRESB is including benchmarks, and it's how to say a good framework to understand the actual status of a building, and also it helps to remeasure it. And probably that's the reason that you understood among the first our score service, which is not simply a bronze, silver, gold level, but the result is converted into numbers actually. And this helps to remeasure it time by time, your improvement. If something happened, if you invested to improve it, or you can compare your own portfolio or the competition with on the market. What do you think about? Tell us something about the Access4you score.
As you might all of you know, that we are struggling with all these ESG and sustainability reports. Collecting data, getting data, understanding the data is crucial these days. Our buildings were not built to provide such data. And that's why the Global Real Estate Sustainability Benchmark and Access4you brings us a translation between the real life into data. And that is not only important for us, and all these measures are not only important for us to report it, but these are the baselines, how we can set targets, how we can improve our buildings. So I think with these scores, we can tracking all of our improvements, and that what helps business, and that what helps investors understanding how the value is changing of a building. So what I like in all these systems, that somehow I have relevant data of our buildings from the S pillar and the G pillar of ESG, which is quite difficult to get in all of the other aspects.
Otherwise, yeah. Thank you. I really have to shorten. Amit, you are our first partner. I mean, Prisma, the first partner starting last year in Italy. We launched the market last year. What is your how is your country? What is your expectation in Italy in terms of penetrating the Access4you certificate? What segment, real estate segment, you consider as probably the most potential? Tell us something about your business planning with Access4you in Italy.
I'll try to be brief. Just two things about what you said, what Gábor and Anne-Marie said before. First of all, I think that it's always great when, ESG and sustainability values align with business opportunities. This is a win-win situation for everybody, from top down and bottom up. So this is one of the first things we all try to keep in mind. The second one is about communication, and communication and education is inseparable from when you talk about certifications, because sometimes we as architects, the developer, the facility manager, they know everything about the certification, but the last end users, if they don't get the information, if they don't have the information, if they don't know what is so great about the building, what are the features that the building offers, sometimes, in the UK, sometimes they call it a soft landing. You have to give them the information. You have to help them, get the best of the building. And these are two things that I wanted to say. Look, in Italy, when you talk about accessibility, laws are quite strict about it. So, when we started talking about Access4you, clients are very interested. They are very curious. And especially when we start talking about neurodivergency, because we actually know that today neurodivergency is about 15 to 20% of the population. We talk about one person out of 5. Okay, and I believe everybody in the audience and everybody on this panel knows someone who's neurodivergent. Okay, so and actually I want to go back to what I said at the beginning. When we work on offices. And offices are important because actually, as Anne-Marie said, we spent a lot of time in the office, sometimes more than we spent at home, unfortunately. And I think that in Italy, we are keeping in mind a very interesting segment that could be, for example, hospitality, because after COVID, hospitality is becoming a very interesting market. Clients, it's a client-driven market. They look for experience. They look for authenticity. They look for safety. They look for a better experience. And I would closely, keep in mind this segment, if I have to say. But at the bottom line, Italy is, I think we're ready for this, let's call it revolution. So we'll try to make it happen, with you.
Please, thank you. Thank you. Anne-Marie, the last question to you, that what kind of real estate segments would you like to identify as probably to extend your activity? And tell me something about your coming 5-10 years plans, how to grow and how we will grow together. So tell us something about real estate segments and also the volumes.
Absolutely. Well, I definitely agree with Amit that we're definitely seeing an expansion into higher education sector, student accommodation, residential, and hospitality. So we're right on track with that. And I think folks are looking for an authentic, human, safe experience in these buildings. I think in our 5 and 10-year plan, it's really to roll out the updated well equity rating and really understand that we are dealing with higher percentages of people that could use our support to make these buildings accessible. So we value the long-term partnership with Prisma, with Futureal, with Access4you, and I think it's working together where we're going to be able to make the biggest noise.
Thank you very much, all of you. Time is over.
Thank you.
I really wonder if we have questions from the audience. I would like to become an Access4you building accredited professional. What steps do I need to take to obtain the accreditation, and how long does the process usually take? Thank you, first of all, that we got a question. Quick answer, actually, there is an application procedure by us, but frankly saying, I encourage anyone to join us, even valet APs or anyone, any kind of professionals for whom accessibility is important or would like to do something for it. By us, we have a very nice e-learning staff, e-exam staff. There are some, to be a building auditor is also a pilot project is required. We have very nice support team at home, and the whole procedure takes probably no more than 2 months to learn everything, to make the exam. So everyone are more than welcome to join our team network, also companies. That's it. Actually, nothing to is why too complicated. It's really not very special. Some sense for the accessibility topics has to be there. I mean, you have to understand that what are the major problems and what to identify and what to detect within the buildings. But I encourage everyone to join us. Thank you very much. Actually, the takeaway is for all of us that we all consider accessibility as very important, and there are many ways to reach a better level of inclusion. Let's make it together. Either choose well or choose Access4you standard, or the best is the both together, including as an AAP. Thank you very much, and see you soon, all you. Thank you, my colleague.
Thank you.
So.